I wonder if anybody out there recognizes this. Need a hint? Stick around for details. Hey, Handy Helper dinner fans, I'm Mr. Spork, and these are Mr. Spork's hands. I've been making this kind of one-pot quick dinner fix for a very long time, but I cannot tell you the last time, it's got to have been decades ago, that I bought one of those pre-boxed helper dinner kits, shall we say. And I still don't quite understand why people are loading up on them. The inspiration for this video came, I was sitting in the no-contact pickup line at the grocery store, and I saw the truck in front of me buy not one, not two, but 3 cases of this stuff. And, you know, I hear the excuses, it's cheap. I hear the excuses that it's convenient, but quite frankly, at $1.75 a box for that stuff when it's on sale, I can do it cheaper. The whole meal I can do for about $5. And if you remember those boxes, you still have to buy the meat and oftentimes the cream or butter that go into the recipe. So you're going to come out money even. I think it's about $5 either way you cut it. But here's the trick. The way I do it from fresh, you get double the amount of food. About 2.5 kilos worth of finished food here versus about 1.25, 1.5 kilos with the pre-boxed stuff. So stick around. I'm going to show you how to do it yourself with really, quite frankly, simple ingredients that you've probably got most of already in your house. Let me briefly go around the clock here and tell you what I've got on the board. This is a pound of ground meat. Happens to be pork in this case because I get it locally and grind it myself, but you can also use beef or chicken or turkey or a combination, anything you've got available to you. You can also use mushrooms. Mushrooms makes for a fabulous vegetarian version of this, but in that case, you're probably going to need about 2 pounds of mushrooms because they do cook down a lot. I'd suggest a mix. And when you cut those mushrooms, you know, quarter them in a little bit smaller, but leave some interesting texture to them. Don't take them down to a super fine dice there. I got 2 ribs of celery. I've got a couple hot chilies, 3 cloves of garlic, a little bit of fresh thyme out of the herb closet, a big fat onion, yellow or white will do fine. And I've got 1 kilo of russet potatoes here. You probably are going to use 800 grams by the time you get them peeled down, but any similar starchy potato will work fine for you. A little bit of peppercorn, some beef stock, and some cream. Now the cream here, this is full 35% whipping cream. You're going to do a gratin at the end of this, and so you need the fat content there so it won't separate out, especially when you've got it mixed in with the stock. Of course, you could certainly use chicken stock or vegetable stock over here too, by the way. 18% might work, but whole milk, skim milk especially, those probably aren't going to give you good results with a gratin. It's going to separate out and be pretty ugly. So stick with high fat, 35% cream if you can get it. That's what's on the board. I'm not going to bore you with the prep again. Let's just call it 5 minutes worth of prep work here. Just make sure you get a nice even sized slice on your potatoes so they cook at the same rate. Don't rinse them. We want that starch on there. That's going to thicken things up later on. A nice big chunk on your onions. Make sure you wash your celery, one of the dirtiest grown vegetables out there. The only other things I need to bring to the party are some really good sea salt and some good olive oil. And I may even go grab some parsley for the end of it all out of the herb closet. My weapon of choice from the cookware arsenal today is my trusty enameled cast iron brazier. We want something relatively shallow because when we go to gratin later, gratin is a technique, not a recipe, we want that evaporation and that reduction to happen with the cream, and a shallow dish will facilitate that. I'm also going to pull in one other secret ingredient. This isn't necessary. You could use certainly normal olive oil, but I've got the oil out of a jar of sun-dried tomatoes, and that stuff is just absolutely delicious. So I'm going to start right there. If you don't have this, don't fret. Just use good regular olive oil. I'll get the heat on under that pan and get started. I'm pretty much going to cook in real time for you guys today because I want to tackle that whole box convenience excuse that I hear so often. Trust me, this is 20 minutes hands-on time and then some oven baking time where you can go off and pour yourself a glass of wine. Started those chilies in cold oil so the flavor will infuse nicely over time. Don't rush it. Medium-low heat here. And this wine isn't going in the dish. This is just a drink while I'm cooking. Just waiting for things to get aromatic before I proceed. As usual, I want to make sure my seasonings get in contact with the oil, because that will bloom the flavors better. I found 2 sage leaves while I was in the herb closet. I'm going to throw those in. As you can see, I season as I go along. I'm going to do just a little bit more of this sun-dried tomato oil on top because it is delicious. And now I want to use my beef stock, and I want to come about a third to a half of the way up the sides of the pan. That's going to help us cook the potatoes a little bit on the stovetop before we go into the oven. I've got my oven preheating on a nice gentle 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 175 Celsius, I think that is. And I'm halfway down on my wine. Now that that's back up to temperature, I'm going to go ahead and put a lid on the pan so that the steam stays in, and that steam's going to cook those potatoes most of the way. We're still going to finish it in the oven with the cream and the gratin, but I want those potatoes to have a nice head start. Okay, after 5 minutes of steaming to give them a good head start, it's time to go in with the cream. We're not going to use the lid for the rest of the time. It's not going to be covered in the oven because we want this gratin to evaporate. In goes that luscious cream. A minute or so after adding the cream, it's back up to temperature, so it's time to go in the oven, probably between 30 and 40 minutes. We're going to get the gratin effect. The cream is going to cook the potatoes, cook into the potatoes, evaporate some. We're going to get that beautiful brown crust on top. I'll see you in about half an hour. Here we are out of the oven about 35 minutes later. Of course, this is raging hot. Remember that that cast iron pan holds a lot of heat. So walk away for a few minutes and let this cool down. I am, however, going to put a little bit of green on there with the parsley just to liven it up a bit. You can certainly sneak some more veg in there with some freshly defrosted frozen peas. Those are always nice in there. I've used carrots. I've used pearl onions. I've used green beans. You can always sneak some extra veg into this that you're absolutely not going to get in those boxed dinners. While this cools down just a little bit more before I can dive into it, let's talk theory real quick. All of these convenience box dinners, all the different flavors, they can all be recreated at home. Everything from the cheeseburger macaroni that everybody seems to like so much to the lasagna flavor that's a real big seller. All of those flavors you can do at home. You just have to spend a little bit of time reading the ingredient list, maybe doing a few experiments. I did the one here with potatoes and pork because that's one of my favorites, the kind of stroganoff gratin sort of thing. But if you want to change the potatoes for pasta or rice or beans, all of that works. Just get yourself the theory of making a sauce base and then building up from there. If you got a flavor that you really like and you can't figure it out, leave me a comment down below and I'll see if I can't help you figure it out. Hope you guys know that I do appreciate every one of you, all the views and watches and subscriptions. That all really helps, and especially watching the ads on either ends of these videos really does help me out and lets me keep doing this for you. Now, let's see if I can't dive into this and show you the final result. You'll see that that cream has evaporated. It's turned, there's no reason to put cheese in this because the cream kind of makes its own cheese. I think as a one-pot dinner goes, that is going to be delicious. Thanks you guys for watching. As always, I do appreciate it. I'm Mr. Spork. These are Mr. Spork's hands, and now I got to go find a really big fork because I'm probably going to eat half of this. Cheers. Let me give you a hint. Get out of there.